A gifted artist fights to keep his daughter after a failed marriage, but things only get worse after the death of his wife. She returns to get her daughter by all means, including using her daughter's puppets. Will she succeed? How will they deal with this new kind of evil?
Hello, and welcome to our channel. Today, we'll recap and review the horror movie Separation. So let's check it out.
The scene opens with Jenny playing with her toys and puppets. She is heavily drawn to them, even going on to give them personal names. She continues to have a good time, but when she climbs a certain height, she falls off. Her dad Jeff and his friend Samantha all rush to help her get back to her feet. Sadly, Jenny is injured and has a little bruise on her head. Her mom Maggie walks into the scene and confronts them on their inability to appropriately watch over Jenny. She criticizes Jeff and the two engage in a heated argument. Maggie takes Jenny to the car and then takes her to the hospital alone. Maggie then decides to get full custody of Jenny, but Jeff isn't happy with the idea. Maggie expresses her desire to 100% gain full possession of the kid. Maggie is backed up by her dad Paul, who is entirely in support of his daughter and also thinks Jeff is too irresponsible to be a father. Considering Jeff's present financial state, Maggie offers Jeff a check to start a new life and forget about their daughter. Although Jeff turns it down and tries to talk things out with Maggie, he's given no chance.
Little did Jeff know, that would soon be the least of their worries.
He returns home, reminisces over past memories, and decides they go out as a family one last time. While waiting for Maggie, Jeff and Jenny are at a cafe when he runs into an old-time friend, Connor. They both share how far they've come, and Connor tells him about his company and how far his comics have gone. Before he leaves, Connor offers him a chance at his company should he need one. During the conversation, Jeff receives a call from Maggie, who was supposed to meet them at the cafe. Unfortunately, Jeff missed the location Maggie described for the meetup. The two begin to argue again, and Jeff tries to make her see he has been responsible. However, she criticizes Jeff and tells him of her plan to travel to a different place with Jenny, and reminds Jeff of her sole custody right. Jeff is bitter, but the pain he feels next is devastating. Right in the middle of their discussion, the unthinkable happens. A car ran past Maggie, who was on the other side of the phone. The vehicle left Maggie lifeless on the ground.
Was this intended, or was it just something that happened? Whatever it was, it kind of favored Jeff. Now, during the funeral, extraordinary things started happening. This was the start of something evil and bizarre for Jeff and Jenny.
Jeff sees Jenny splashing paint on the wall. He finds it weird and calls her, but notices another strange thing about her. Her speech pattern is reversed. She sounds like a child. He is shocked and tells her to stop speaking like that. Jenny still hung on the death of her mom. She reacts and walks out on her dad. Those were only some of the signs of the day while Jeff was giving a speech. He saw the portrait he made of his family burning. Well, the evil wasted no time in introducing itself to Jeff. First, Jeff walks in and sees one of the puppets trying to attack him. Then he finds another puppet in his room staring at him. He is terrified. Luckily for him, it was only a dream. Jeff is trying to care for Jenny just like her mom would. He orders breakfast, after which he attempts to make one. He receives a call at the door. It's Paul, and issues another court order. He wants to get Maggie's wish, which is to get custody of Jenny. Jeff is determined not to allow that to happen. Jeff decides to pay a visit to Connor's company and explore the opportunity to work with him. He is welcomed and introduced to a co-worker, Alan.
Connor offers him the job and allows him to do the inking for his company. However, this was only the gateway to very dark and spooky events for Jeff.
Jeff returns home, tries to draw and ink some comics. Suddenly, evil takes a hold of him, and he ends up drawing a weird and formless image. The inking session was put to a halt when Jenny walked in. Jeff tells her about the new job, and Jenny shares her fear of being taken away from her dad. Jeff returns to the office and brings the inks he made. Shockingly, the weird and formless image stood out. Alan is intrigued by the drawing and invites Jeff to his office. Alan refers to the image as darkness and believes this correlates to the project he's been working on. He asks Jeff to do more of those sketches.
Things seem dark and spooky at Jeff's home. There might be more than just the presence of one strange evil.
He is at his studio when he hears a loud shout from Jenny. For the first time, she sees the presence in her room. Jenny is completely frightened but is quickly pacified by her dad. Jeff tries to cheer her up and get her mind off the dark thoughts. The two spent quality time together right until it was night. They spent the night on the bed together. However, the same presence shows up again in the room. Jeff decides to discover what this could be and sets up a camera in the room. Jenny finds him and asks him if there is anything in her room.
Jeff tells her not to be afraid of any kind of monster, but rather to befriend it. But, unknowingly to Jeff, that advice is not going to work out.
Jeff discovers the most shocking thing ever. He finds Jenny doing the same sketches he's been making in his studio. Jenny fights back to get the drawing book from her dad, but Jeff asks if she's been to the studio, which she clearly denies. Instead, she claims to have seen the image in her room. Now that things are getting weirder for Jeff, he decides to seek answers on his child's behavior. He wonders why his daughter speaks like a baby and the imaginary images. Then, right in action, Alan walks in. He is knowledgeable about spooky stuff, more like a degree in dark arts. Jeff decides to ask Alan if he believes in ghosts. He replies and admits he does. He further explains to Jeff the possibility of ghosts being trapped, making them wander around until they get what they want. The conversation is interrupted, but Jeff seems to know what he's been experiencing. Paul comes to his office. He speaks to Jeff and reminds him of his plan to take Jenny away. Paul also tells about Maggie's death and how he's been investigating the incident. He advises Jeff to be careful as he sees him as a suspect. Jeff has decided to take a break from all the chaos and spend some time with Samantha and Jenny. But what Jeff sees next could be the most unexplainable thing ever. He sees a puppet show up while staring at him, and immediately freezes and sees everywhere things turning red. Jeff can't understand what he just saw. Jeff tells Samantha about the house and how moving out could be best for him and Jenny. During the discussion, Samantha kisses him, in an awkward moment for them both as Samantha rushes home. Jeff is at his studio working while keeping an eye on the surveillance camera he planted in Jenny's room. He sees her having a discussion with an imaginary image. Jeff rushes to the room but finds nothing. He is puzzled and asks Jenny who allowed her into the attic.
She replies that it was her imaginary friend. From this point on, it seems to be all coming together for Jeff.
The next day, while on the train, he freezes again and everywhere goes red, and he sees a scary-looking puppet. Jeff is beyond terrified. He screams and startles everyone around him. He makes up his mind to speak to Alan about the events. Alan schools him on what evil is lurking in his household. He tells Jeff of an event he witnessed whereby the spirits of dead individuals got stuck in a puppet. Back at home, Samantha walks in on Jenny speaking to herself. She sees the door open and shut itself. Samantha is beyond convinced that there is an evil presence in the house. She waits for Jeff to return from work and tells him of her strange experience. Jeff is shocked when he walks into his studio and finds it in shambles. He asks Jenny if she has entered his studio. She denies it and tells Jeff she's been speaking to her mom. Jenny is angry with her dad on why he agreed to sign her off. He is shocked to find out how she knew before she admits her mom told her. Jeff returns to Alan and reveals all the strange occurrences he and Jenny have been having. Alan tells him the situation, his ex-wife trying to get back Jenny. Jeff struggles to believe, but he explains further. Alan explains that his dead wife's spirit is dangerous and is trying to drive a wedge between him and Jenny so she can get what she wants. He tells Jeff to speak to her before things get worse. He gives Jeff a substance to help him communicate with the spirit and make peace with her. Jeff returns home and talks with Samantha about the strange things he's been feeling in the house. Just then, Jenny starts choking on the food she's having. What could be wrong? Jeff is able to revive her to consciousness, but she gets knocked down by the chandelier. This seems to have been done by the evil presence. The police come to the house to inspect the incident that just occurred. They even feel something is off and are suspicious of Jeff. Jenny returns back to the attic to meet her imaginary friend. She discusses it with her and gives her a hug. It's clear now that Alan was right. Jenny refers to her as Mommy. Maggie appears to Samantha and attempts to take her life. Samantha is terrified and escapes to tell Jeff about what just happened. She tells him who he thinks it is. Although Jeff decides that Paul takes Jenny home, he also tells Samantha to go home and rest. Surely, Jeff has the plan to stop these. He has the house to himself and decides to take the substance given to him by Alan. He drinks it and begins to hallucinate and has a little discussion with Maggie. He tries to pacify Maggie and make peace with her. Then, finally, he wakes up and hopes his action worked. Jeff meets up with Paul at their negotiation on who will take Jenny. Surprisingly, Paul has a change of heart and reconsiders his decision.
Paul also reveals to Jeff that they may have figured out who hit Maggie. After that, things seemed kind of normal for Paul. But that was just the beginning of a brand new madness.
Jeff is excited about how things are going and is considering moving out of the state. He informs Connor and Alan of his plans and they are all excited for him. Paul has received information on who the killer is and leaves a message for Jeff. Alan and Connor are having a conversation about their new story. Just there, it dawns on Jeff that the spirit would most likely come back more angrily. Jeff rushes out and tries to inform Paul to get everyone out of the house. Unfortunately, he has a hard time reaching Paul. The spirit attacks Paul and has him rolling down the stairs. Jeff tries his best to get home and finds Paul on the floor. Paul was more concerned about the murderer of his daughter. He shows Jeff the ID of the suspect and wasn't expecting to be who it was. Jeff was shocked to discover it was Samantha. He confronts her, who admits she also tried to poison Jenny. She tells Jeff how much he has wanted them to be together and be free. She gets violent and tries to attack Jeff with a shard of glass. Luckily, the spirit intervenes and takes Samantha's life. It tries to go after Jeff too, but Jenny stops her. She runs to the attic and attempts to jump down. The spirit attacks Jeff again, but Jenny stops her again. She tries to calm both of them. Just when she tries to, she slips and falls. Fortunately, Jeff reaches out to grab her and they all fall together without serious injury. It appears they were all able to withstand the evil. The two share a hug and talk.
At the end of the movie, the evil returns, but in another form. Could this mean a continuation? This is a great movie, and it has a unique storyline and a lot of suspense that will indeed leave you on the edge of your seat. Now, the horror scenes are pretty good and more or less mild. This is one that's suitable for soft-hearted folks, and overall, it's a great watch. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified when we upload. Also, remember to suggest movies that you want us to recap in the comments down below.